This is Stereoactive Presents. I'm your host, Jeremiah McVay. And in this episode, I'm joined by Charles Hinshaw, and we are going to be talking about the Oscar nominations that just were announced yesterday as I'm recording this intro here that you're listening to at the moment. So basically, we were already slated to record a couple of movie discussions the night that the Oscar nominations were announced. And so we decided to kind of call an audible and do this. We wanted to talk about the Oscar nominations with some of our first early reactions, if you want to call it that. So we went through all the categories pretty much. We went through them all. We had opinions on most of them. There was a few where we just haven't seen those nominees, which we'll mention as we go along. But yeah, it was a fun conversation, and we'll get to it in just a moment. I did want to mention a couple of things that we just didn't think to bring up in our conversation, or I didn't really know at the time that I thought were notable. So one, I do wish personally that the young actor from Anatomy of a Fall, the one who plays the son, I believe you say his name, Milo Machado Graner. I'm not sure I'm saying that correctly at all, so apologies. But I do wish he'd been nominated for supporting actor. I'm not sure who I would have taken out of that category, but I thought he was really good in that role, and it would have been a welcome thing to see him there if that had been possible. Also, we did not talk about how Leonardo DiCaprio was not nominated for Best Actor. Yeah, it just slipped our mind, I guess, because it didn't surprise us that much somehow. I mean, it is a bit of a surprise. He's one of the biggest actors in the world and usually gets nominated for a role like this. But as I had heard pointed out on another podcast I listened to after we had recorded our own episode, basically, he's been sort of like in the background this award season, sort of supporting Martin Scorsese and especially Lily Gladstone in their campaigns for awards. So maybe that just kind of didn't leave him the space to campaign for himself, and whatever, who cares? That is a stacked category, so whatever. And then I do think it's worth pointing out that Greta Gerwig, despite not getting her Best Director nomination, she is the first woman to have directed 3 Best Picture nominees between Lady Bird, Little Women, and Barbie. And I believe she's maybe the first filmmaker whose first 3 directorial efforts were all nominated for Best Picture. I could be wrong on that, but I think that might be the case. And another thing for Killers of the Flower Moon, going back to that, is that it was not nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay, which is actually surprising, I think, because it's a very well-regarded book, and sometimes that's enough for something to get a nomination, especially when the movie gets so many other nominations for Best Picture, Director, Actress, etc. So that is kind of surprising, and we didn't mention it in the flow of conversation, just didn't occur to us then. But like I said, I just wanted to share some of that. And now we'll take a little break, and in a moment, you'll hear my conversation with Chuck. So I'm here with Charles Hinshaw. And Chuck, thanks for being here.
No problem.
We're going to go through the Oscar nominations that, as we're recording this, came out this morning. And it is now evening where we are, and there have been plenty of opinions out there. I don't know how much you've engaged with those. Have you paid attention to people talking about the snubs and the what the fucks and all that? Or
a little bit, not, I haven't done any kind of deep dive. I've talked about it with some people and read some headlines and that sort of thing, but certainly haven't been trolling Twitter or X in order to get, the sort of full sense of what people feel is right or wrong about it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I did a little bit of that on good old X. Why don't we start off by just going through the categories as they're listed on the Academy website. And okay. I'll read off the nominees and I'll share some thoughts and ask for yours.
All right.
So we'll start off with actor in a leading role.
Mhm.
And the nominees for that are Bradley Cooper for Maestro, Colman Domingo for Rustin, Paul Giamatti for The Holdovers, Cillian Murphy for Oppenheimer, and Jeffrey Wright for American Fiction. And for me, honestly, no real surprises here. These guys have all been getting plenty of nominations and attention. And if I'd made a prediction in advance, these are probably who I would have guessed. That being said, I think it would have been nice to see Zac Efron in there for The Iron Claw. I really enjoyed that movie and thought he was quietly amazing in it. I don't know if you've seen that at all.
I haven't.
But what were your thoughts about these nominations?
Yeah, I think that I guess I'm kind of surprised. Well, not surprised, but was Coleman Domingo nominated for a Golden Globe?
I don't remember, but I think
Okay.
he's been getting a lot of attention though, and like he's been out making the rounds. He was in like one of those round tables that they do.
Yeah. Right.
Him and what's his face? Andrew Scott were in the same one with Giamatti and a couple other people.
Sure.
Which Andrew Scott is someone who a lot of people hoped would get nominated, but did not. Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, that's the only one that I might have been surprised. I haven't seen the movie, so I don't know. I haven't seen Rustin, I haven't seen The Holdovers, and I haven't seen American Fiction. So I'm kind of not really well educated on this category.
Fair enough.
But I do feel like I'm curious. It kind of feels like Cillian's year, but then maybe this is like the year they give it to Paul Giamatti.
Yeah.
As like more of a career. Maybe the role's great too, but certainly from the perspective of like, years of great work and that kind of thing.
And not ever really getting much recognition, Giamatti.
Right.
I think his only nomination is supporting for Cinderella Man. Is that right?
I know he definitely was nominated for that. I'm not sure if it's his only one, but yeah. Has done a lot of, been very, indie darling, and probably has a couple Spirit Awards on his shelf, but
yeah, definitely
not from the Oscars.
Yeah, and the only one I haven't seen is Rustin, and really the word on that movie has been that the movie's not very good, but Colman Domingo is good, and I certainly believe that based on things I've seen him in, especially if Beale Street Could Talk,
Sure.
and Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. That was a movie that I liked all the performers, but not the movie so much. So
right, what was that movie with Riley Keough?
Oh, right. I think you and Jackie watched that for our old show, but I did not.
Yeah.
The one that was based on a Twitter thread that had gone
viral. Right.
I can't remember what it's called now, but
he was in that.
Yeah,
he was good in that.
But yeah, I think you're right. I think it's Cillian Murphy's year, and I'm definitely all right with that. I thought he was so good in that movie. As you might remember in my review in our episode about that, I likened him to Peter O'Toole and Lawrence of Arabia in the type of performance he gave. So yeah. But moving on, actor in a supporting role, the nominees were Sterling K. Brown for American Fiction, Robert De Niro for Killers of the Flower Moon, Robert Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer, Ryan Gosling for Barbie, and Mark Ruffalo for Poor Things. So again, I don't think there's any real surprises here, but I also think they missed some good possibilities. I don't know why, but Jacob Elordi was just never really in the conversation for his turn as Elvis in Sofia Coppola's Priscilla, and I thought he was so good in that, but I'm not surprised he wasn't nominated because he has not been, as far as I know, nominated for much, if anything, up till now. Also, T.O.U., if I'm pronouncing that correctly, from Past Lives. I would have loved for him to have been nominated, and he did get a BAFTA nomination, so it wouldn't have been out of the realm of possibility based on precursors, as they call them. Also, Charles Melton from May December. There was definitely a period where people expected him to get it, and that seemed to kind of wane, so it wasn't shocking, but I think he was really good in that movie.
Yeah, agreed.
And in the end, honestly, those three that I just singled out, I would have put them in and dropped Sterling K. Brown in a role that I think is a little too small. Like, he's good in that movie, but it's a smaller role that I think other people might deserve nominations more. I would have dropped him, De Niro, and Ruffalo just because, like, De Niro doesn't need another one.
Right.
All of those people are good in those movies, but, like, I don't know. I just would have liked to have seen these other three instead.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I liked Teo Yu. Is that how you say his name?
I think so.
Okay. If we're wrong, we're sorry.
Yes.
And from Past Lives, yeah, I thought he was really great, and really could have, I would not have been mad at that recognition. And you talk about Jacob Elordi. I wouldn't have minded Jacob Elordi for Saltburn. Or in talking about leads, Barry Keoghan for Saltburn. And I don't get the Downey love.
Oh, I'm there for that, actually. Yeah.
Like, I think he's good in the movie, but I also sort of feel like there's a little bit of, like, it's Robert Downey Jr. with makeup on going on.
Sure. I mean, I think it's definitely a career recognition, but I do think he's really good in the movie and deserving. And I think he's probably going to win.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. I think if anybody upsets him, it's going to be Ryan Gosling. That's my
I agree.
Idea.
Yeah, I think it's sort of a race between Downey and Gosling, and I think it would be weird if Ryan Gosling won for playing Ken.
I don't know. I rewatched that movie recently, and he is doing some work in that movie. Like, he's really good. Yeah, it's a good performance.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
But they also don't love comedy, as we'll get to in a little bit.
Right. So every year it becomes this kind of, and we'll get into it too with the actress category, like this debate for me personally of what defines an Oscar role.
Of course,
like, everyone's good. Everyone's doing it. What makes it Oscar worthy? I mean, sometimes I think there's really obvious roles or performances that are just, like, so above and beyond that it's really clear. But I think more often than not, it's kind of just a collection of people who are very competent and do very well. And it's like, what are you judging it on?
Right. Yeah. I mean, this gets back to the question I feel like we've talked about on podcasts for years,
Right.
You and I and Jackie at times, and just that this is all stupid, but it's like a booster for movies. That's in the end what it's good for, and for representation. We've talked a lot about how it's important that certain movies and certain people get these awards because it helps them to have careers, and it helps those kind of movies continue to get made. Yeah.
Right.
So, but
beyond, like,
in the end, you're right. What is an Oscar performance? It's just
and I don't mean it actually because we have talked a lot about, like, the futility of it or the utility. Like, what's the point? I'm more sort of saying, like, all right, beyond, let's say there is a point, and perhaps the point is the one you just laid out. So what's the yardstick? Like, what's the,
I don't know.
Yeah, but maybe we can get deeper into it with are we talking actress next? Because I feel like that's a good example.
Yeah. Let's get to that. So, actress in a leading role. The nominees are Annette Bening for Nyad, Lily Gladstone for Killers of the Flower Moon, Sandra Hüller for Anatomy of a Fall, Carey Mulligan for Maestro, and Emma Stone for Poor Things. I've seen all but Nyad personally. And I'm not sure I'm exactly surprised that Margot Robbie wasn't nominated for Barbie, since, like we just mentioned a little bit ago, the Oscars don't always treat comedic performances well. But given that Gosling and America Ferrera were nominated, I do find it odd. And on top of that, I'll throw in something else. I really did think Greta Lee would be in here for Past Lives, which is my favorite female actor role of the year. And so I was kind of bummed that she didn't get in there. But yeah, continue your thoughts from before here.
Yeah, so I think both of those people, both Margot Robbie and Greta Lee, kind of communicate my uncertainty about it, what defines the Oscar performance, because it seems often that this really is, and I guess this is why it's such a big deal, but it really is like a prestige award as opposed to a performance award. And sometimes we're lucky enough that those things align, that, you know, someone who, for whatever reason in the moment is prestigious, is also the performance that is most impactful. But it's like Margot Robbie playing Barbie, there's almost like as much as she's doing work in the movie and is very good at playing Barbie, it's not really a stretch. Sure. It's someone you might think would play Barbie.
Right.
And Greta Lee, it's a great performance, but it's also like, it's almost too normal.
Yeah. Well, that gets this at something that I've seen people say, I think, every time these awards are announced, some version of this, that the Oscars often nominate and award the most acting instead of the best acting.
Right. Yes.
And I think that especially and clearly to me relates to Greta Lee, because like I've watched both Greta Lee and Barbie twice, and on second viewings of both, I appreciated their performances, Margot Robbie's and Greta Lee's, more on that second performance. Because the thing with Greta Lee is like it is a very normal performance. She's just playing like a normal person in the world, but there's so much subtlety and like nuance in what she's doing when you really pay attention, that that's why it's my favorite of the year. And I think honestly you could say something similar about Margot Robbie and Barbie. Like she's sort of the straight man of Barbie.
For sure.
Like she's not like the big bombastic performance, but she is doing a lot of nuanced detail in her performance, and and there's a progression that like I heard her talk about in one of those roundtables, and of the style of acting she does from the beginning to the end. It subtly changes, and it is something that once she pointed out, I was like, oh yeah, that is what I'm connecting with on the second viewing of it. You know, she goes from like very confident and rigid in her the way she talks and moves and everything, to like more loose and human by the end. And you know, I think one, it's a big comedy. It made a lot of money, and maybe the Oscars just didn't feel the need to like reward her for that for some reason, even though they rewarded the movie in other other places. And two, like she's not doing the most acting in that movie or compared to other actresses this year.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I also think that there's, maybe that's really what it comes down to, is just, I think it's about people stretching themselves a lot of times. Now, I don't know. I haven't seen Killers of the Flower Moon. I don't know how much Lily Gladstone is stretching herself. I assume she's playing a regular person. But there's historic considerations with that. And you know, all that stuff goes into it, and for whatever reason Margot Robbie and Greta Lee just didn't make their cut. Maybe they were super close, you know, maybe it was like neck and neck with, but it is odd that Annette Bening's in there, if only because, not because I didn't see the movie, but just because the movie's so sort of under the radar.
I mean, it's on Netflix, but I don't know that anybody.
It's not like you don't go on Netflix and like top 10 my ad, you know, like, I mean,
no one's talking about it that much. And anytime I hear anyone talking about it, the thing I hear get singled out is more Jodie Foster's performance.
But
But yeah, I want to go back to you kind of, even though you didn't see it, I think you hit on it with Lily Gladstone's performance, because she is also in that same class, I think, with Margot Robbie and Greta Lee, as you guessed, that she's playing like a very normal person and gives a very like normal person performance, so to speak.
Right.
And that's the reason that, like, watching that movie the first time, I didn't feel like I connected with it as much as I wanted to. And I wanted to watch that movie again, but it being a 3.5-hour movie has made that hard.
Right.
But I really think that if I watched Killers of the Flower Moon again, not only would the movie as a whole, like, kind of blossom for me in a way, but I think her performance, I would hook into it so much more in the same way that I did with those other two I'd mentioned. In the end, I do think that it's either going to be Stone or Gladstone, Emma Stone or Lily Gladstone, because
Stone or Gladstone.
Yeah, I know. Because Lily Gladstone had been winning a lot of awards,
right?
But it does have that working against it, that it's like sort of a normal person performance, even though it's a really good performance and deserves recognition. And then Emma Stone is doing a lot of acting in Poor Things.
Right.
She's doing the most acting, maybe, in this category, at least of the movies I've seen. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good odds that it'll be Lily Gladstone. And part of it is also because Emma Stone has won an Oscar already.
Yeah.
It's not, the first time that they would have given it to someone twice, especially when you maybe thought it would be someone else. But I just think that I think it's just going to be her.
Yeah.
That's my sense of things.
And nothing wrong with that.
No, there's nothing wrong with that.
And so, yeah, sorry. Let's move on to actress in a supporting role. The nominees there are Emily Blunt for Oppenheimer, Danielle Brooks for The Color Purple, America Ferrera for Barbie, Jodie Foster for Nyad, and Divine Joy Randolph for The Holdovers. So Ferrera was a surprise to me.
For me as well.
I haven't seen The Color Purple,
nor have I.
Was surprised that Danielle Brooks was nominated, though I do like her as an actor. I've only seen her in television, really, I think. Orange is the New Black and Peacemaker, especially. So it was kind of nice to see her get some recognition in that way, even though I haven't seen that performance. To me, the weak link of the ones I've seen here is Emily Blunt. I just thought that her role in Oppenheimer, like, I thought it was underwritten, and that didn't help her give the best performance that I thought she could have given if given more character to work with.
Yeah.
She has good moments, but it feels...
Well, this is also, I think, the prestige concept. Like, Oppenheimer is the prestige movie of the year. So they're going to sort of include it as much as they can.
Exactly.
And it's not to say that, I think she's done better work. I think there's movies where she's stood out more than this one. It's not a holy shit performance. And maybe that's my sort of very simplistic yardstick for Oscar, performances. Like, did I come away with it being like, damn, like that person acted? And it doesn't have to be big. It could be big or it could be small or whatever, but just that sort of like, wow feeling. I didn't get that from Emily Blunt and Oppenheimer, but I agree with you that, I mean, there's not a lot. There's only so much she had to work with. Yeah.
But I do think Divine Joy Brown is going to win it, and I'm totally fine with that. Like, I thought she was one of the best parts of that movie, which is a good movie. She's
like
really
to
good.
see it.
And she's been winning a lot of awards. I think she's pretty much the hands-on favorite to win. So animated feature film, the nominees are The Boy and the Heron, Elemental, Nimona, Robot Dreams, and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I've only seen two of those, The Boy and the Heron and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Both of those are in my top 10. I have a feeling it's gonna be The Boy and the Heron because this is most likely Miyazaki's last movie. But he's also, I think, said that before, and then he had this come out. So
it was like
I
Kiss.
don't know. Yeah, but I mean, I think I have it at number 2 or 3 in my top 10.
Wow.
It's my second favorite movie of the year, so I'm fine with it winning. What are your
Yeah, that's
thoughts on this?
cool. I can tell you that I've seen 0 of any of these.
Right.
So I still have to see the first Spider-Man
Oh yeah.
animated one. What's the first one called?
Into the Spider-Verse.
Into the Spider-Verse. And those aren't connected to the Marvel movies at all. Like you can go into them cold, right?
Yeah, you could totally go in. There is a connection, but it's so tentative it doesn't matter.
Okay, cool.
It's more like an Easter egg.
Yeah. Yeah, I need to still sort of I mean, yeah, animated is not my first sort of go-to also. But
Right.
I would like to, there's enough time that I can actually, when are the awards? Because I think I can actually get through all these in time.
Yeah, let me look it up. March 10th.
March 10th. Okay, yeah. So I got time.
Okay. So moving on, cinematography. I've seen 4 out of 5 of these, and none of these was a surprise. This made me want to see El Conde because I'd heard of that movie, but I didn't really know much about it. It's by the director of Jackie and Spencer, Pablo Larraín.
Oh,
And I really liked Jackie, not so much Spencer personally.
yeah.
But El Conde
like
sounds
both of them.
interesting, and I guess it looks great. We'll see.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like both those movies, so I'm into. I'd be curious to see that.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess I think Oppenheimer's going to win, but I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if any of the 4 I've seen win. I mean, El Conde's not going to win probably because this is his only nomination. That just doesn't happen that often. But
right.
But Oppenheimer seems like it's going to sweep a lot of stuff. So I bet it gets it with all those others.
Hoyt van Hoytma, and I guess he's like up and coming or has been or whatever, like, you know, in his own way, sort of like due for. Although I didn't think there was anything like super. I mean, it was beautiful. Don't get me wrong, but again, that sort of like, was I shocked? You know, like I wasn't. I was. It looked like a Christopher Nolan.
Did you?
I did. I saw it.
Oh, you did say it in IMAX. See, I think that's part of it. Like, we have to remember that everything but Best Picture, the nominations are chosen by the people in that branch. So I bet cinematographers look at the work he did in Oppenheimer and all the different formats, and they're like, "Damn, this guy cooked," you know?
Sure.
So
sure.
That doesn't mean that the full voting body, when everybody votes, is going to vote that the winner, though.
Right.
But yeah, we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Costume design. We got Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, Poor Things. No real surprises here. Costume dramas and Barbie, which definitely had some costume design in it.
And I feel like that's where Barbie is. I feel like costume and production design are probably gonna.
Yeah, probably. Honestly, I could see any of these winning. I think Oppenheimer might be actually the least likely here. Which is
yeah, the costume. Well, we all loved the costumes in Oppenheimer.
I mean, they're good. I actually dressed as Oppenheimer for Halloween.
Right.
I was so inspired by it. But yeah. Anyway, I could see any of these winning, but yeah.
Right.
Okay, directing. The nominees were Justine Triet for Anatomy of a Fall, Killers of the Flower Moon, Martin Scorsese, Christopher Nolan, Oppenheimer, Yorgos Lanthimos for Poor Things, and Jonathan Glazer for The Zone of Interest. Triet was a surprise. I'm not totally shocked that Gerwig wasn't nominated for a lot of the same reasons, honestly, we were talking about for Margot Robbie not being nominated. They don't really value comedy that much. Also, she is a woman, and apparently they can only nominate one woman at a time. And any year that they do actually deem to nominate a woman. Yeah. I do wish Celine's Song had been nominated here too, for Past Lives.
Sure.
I thought she did a great job. That's such like a mesmerizing movie to me. And the only one of these I haven't seen is The Zone of Interest, because it's not available where I am yet. I mean, I think, come on, Christopher Nolan's going to win this.
Yeah. I think it's obviously Nolan's time. I remember thinking that he should have won for Dunkirk. But it's cool, let him win for this, whatever.
I mean, this is my favorite
like,
of his movies. It's, I think, the best job he's done. And I've liked his movies. I've never been like we talked about in our Oppenheimer episode. I've never been like a stan for him or anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's also, if you don't think that like it's his best movie, there's an argument to be made of just how many great movies he's made.
Yeah.
And like, you got to give it to him at some point.
Sure.
And if it's not for this, where is it going to be?
Yeah. I just think it'll be nice if they give it to him for his actual best movie, which I think this is. But that's my opinion, of course.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
So moving on to documentary feature film. I'm just going to say I have not seen any of these and unfortunately had not really heard of most of these. I think the only one I'd heard of is 20 Days in Mariupol. The other four are To Kill a Tiger, Four Daughters, The Eternal Memory, and Bobby Wine, the People's President, or Bobby Wine, the People's President. I'm not sure which that is. For me, a lot of times these Oscar nominations for documentary are like what lead me to watch these movies, because I don't necessarily get a chance to hear about them or see them in advance because they might not be playing yet in a lot of places. So yeah, I look at this as an opportunity, and I have no idea what will win. But
same.
Yeah, and pretty much the same for a documentary short film. And let's just move on to film editing. The nominees there are Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers, Colors of the Flower Moon, Oppenheimer, Poor Things. I mean, I have a feeling this is going to be Oppenheimer for good reason, but also
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. And it's interesting how, you get to these awards and it's always like there's just movies that dominate.
Yeah.
And it's not just like, Oppenheimer, which has 13 nominations. It's like the categories are very similar. You don't have, like, I don't know, maybe Past Lives could have been in the editing. I mean, there's some pretty decent editing in that movie, but
totally.
It's like, I don't know, it's like they get bored or they get tired, or I don't know, they like don't want to go out on a limb.
I will say this about these. I know that you can tell that editors nominated these because so many people think editing is about making things shorter. And we have Killers of the Flower Moon and Oppenheimer in here. And The Holdovers isn't a short movie either. So I do think that that's worth noting.
But it's also like with Killers, I assume Thelma Schoonmaker edited it.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yes.
So it's that thing of like nominating Meryl Streep again. It's like, we know, I don't know. This is the other question about the awards is, so we kind of went over the merit version of the awards. Now I'm sort of like looking at it from the fairness or the representation, and not just representation as far as race or gender, although those things are important, but also like, are we really going to nominate the same person every single time they make a movie? Like, we get it. They're great. They have their Oscar or their two.
Wait till we get to score, Chuck.
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. And that was my feeling that I had.
So international feature film. Let's move on to that. So the nominees are Io Capitano from Italy, Perfect Days from Japan, Society of the Snow from Spain, The Teacher's Lounge from Germany, and The Zone of Interest from the United Kingdom. And I'm just going to go ahead and say, I think Zone of Interest is going to win. I think Anatomy of a Fall, especially given all the other nominations it ended up getting, would have won this if France had put it up instead of the movie they did submit. So France kind of shot themselves in the foot here.
Yeah. Classic France.
Classic. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen any of these. I've heard of Zone of Interest is the only one I've actually heard of.
Society of the Snow is on Netflix now, I think. It's another version of it's based on the same story that Alive, the movie Alive, is based on.
Oh, okay.
I believe.
Sure.
So there's that. And Perfect Days is Wim Wenders' movie. I've seen
Oh,
trailers for it. It's not playing here yet, but it's from Japan because he shot it there with
oh,
Japanese cast. Yeah, it's this. It follows this
there's
guy who
something
cleans
weird
toilets in
about it.
Tokyo, I believe.
Oh,
Yeah.
like you said before, it is a sort of opportunity to see stuff that maybe I wouldn't have otherwise.
Yeah, totally, totally.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think often with international, that is, especially,
Mhm.
I don't live in New York anymore. I live in North Florida, where we don't have an art house cinema or
Mhm.
independent cinema so much. So like this is telling me what to look out for when it hits streaming, or
Right.
if it does end up coming here at some point, more than
Yeah.
something I could have seen in advance. But anyway, moving on to makeup and hairstyling. Nominees are Golda, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and Society of the Snow. I have not seen Golda or Society of the Snow. I mean, Maestro is going to win this, I think.
Oh
Kazuhiro
yeah.
doing the makeup job on Bradley Cooper, I think, is going to
Right.
get
Right.
that, and he's like a favorite, Kazuhiro. Um,
Okay.
he did, I believe, the makeup for Gary Oldman in The Darkest Hour.
Oh. Yeah, I think that makes sense that he
Yeah.
would that would win.
Original score. The nominees here are American Fiction, Laura Karpman, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, John Williams, Killers of the Flower Moon, Robbie Robertson, Oppenheimer, Ludwig Göransson, Poor Things, Jerskin Fendrix. I have had Oppenheimer's soundtrack on repeat for
Right. Right.
half a year now.
Yeah.
It's ingrained in my soul at this point. So I
Yeah.
hope
Yeah.
it wins. I think it probably will win. And I
Yeah.
think there's no damn reason that John Williams needed another nomination.
Yes. Yes.
So this is what you were talking about before, right?
Yes. Absolutely. If by some miracle John Williams came up with an amazing sort of standout theme for Dial of Destiny, not unlike, the kind of Last Crusade theme, or, the Attack of the Clones theme, which
Yeah.
sounds like I'm making a joke, but I'm serious.
No, his work in those prequels was good. Duel
Yeah.
of the Fates in episode
Right?
1, so good.
Yeah. So, if he had done something like that, I could see that.
Mm-hmm.
But it was pretty standard, like nothing new Indiana Jones, John Williams music. So yes, I don't understand what
Mhm.
the sort of
Yeah.
point of that is. And then I thought that the music, I mean, this would never make it, but the music in How to Bomb a Pipeline was very good.
How to blow up a pipeline.
How to blow up a pipeline.
Oh, that's a good call. That's a good call.
Two
Yeah, that was never in
different-
the running here, I think. But
Right.
That's a good call.
Yeah, I don't think How to Blow Up a Pipeline was it was apparently rejected by multiple I think it's too controversial for Hollywood. But which is kind of silly. But I liked the music a lot in that movie, and that would have been cool. And then I liked the music a lot in Saltburn too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think there were other maybe not as well known, opportunities to shine a light.
Yeah. A couple that I saw people pointing out didn't get nominated, which I agree is a shame, are The Boy and the Heron, and Across the Spider-Verse, which maybe this just goes to like the Academy also not taking animation as seriously as they could, and often not nominating it anywhere outside of the animation category itself.
Yeah.
But those both had excellent scores that I've also been listening to quite a lot.
Nice.
Yeah, but yeah, I think Göransson's gonna win. I wouldn't, but
yeah, I think so too.
It wouldn't surprise me though if Robbie Robertson won.
Oh, sure.
It's a good score, but I mean, not to be morbid, but he did unfortunately just pass away this past year.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So, the Academy does sometimes do that,
Right,
honor people
right.
for that reason. And I'm not saying that means he doesn't deserve an award.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying that at all. It was a very
Yeah.
good score. Moving on, music, original song. We got we got a song from Flamin' Hot about
Right.
those Cheetos.
Yeah.
It's
Is
just
that what the
showing,
movie's about?
yeah, it's about the story of the janitor, I think, at the Cheetos factory who pitched it to the CEO, and then they became the biggest thing in the world. But I think that story's also maybe been debunked since then. I don't know.
Okay.
Um,
Well,
anyway,
it's directed by Ava Longoria,
yeah,
right?
yeah, it was on
Yeah.
Hulu for a while. It probably still
Mm-hmm.
is. But that song's called "The Fire Inside," and it is
Okay.
written by Diane Warren, who has been nominated a
Classic.
million
Right.
times. She's
Yeah.
the John Williams of this category, probably.
Right, right, right.
Oh, back
Yeah.
to John Williams though. I did want to say that I think I read he is now and still the oldest nominee ever at
Okay.
by the Oscars at all. He already
Mm-hmm.
was, but now he's
Even
extended
more,
that because he's
right.
older now, of course.
Even more old. Yeah.
Yeah. And also I think he already had the record for the most nominations ever and has just extended that record.
Right.
So
So
there's
it's
that.
like they're just trying to keep up some weird Guinness
Yeah,
Book
maybe.
of Records
They
thing.
just want to make it unbreakable.
Yeah.
But back to original song.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Diane Warren. I'm Just Ken from Barbie.
Mm-hmm.
It Never Went Away from American Symphony. I don't know how to say this. Wajaje? I don't remember. It's a song for my people from Killers of the Flower Moon. And
Mm-hmm.
What Was I Made For from Barbie.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a feeling Billie Eilish is going to win another Oscar. But
Yeah.
honestly, watching Barbie again, like, I think I'm Just Ken is the better song. Or at least, like,
I agree.
we've talked about in previous podcasts. I wish this was called like best use of music or something like that
Mm-hmm.
instead of
Right.
just best song. Cause I think both are used well, but like that I'm Just Ken number in that movie is so
Well,
good.
yeah.
So,
Right.
I don't know.
And it's a real song for the movie.
Yeah.
Not that the Billie Eilish song isn't, but it's more like inspired by.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm Just Ken is like a part of
Yeah.
the
It's
movie.
part of the story. Whereas what Was I Made For is part of the soundtrack in a good way. It helps move the movie along and is thematically on point, but still, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm Just Ken would be my vote, even though I haven't heard the other three songs.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
American Symphony was supposed to be good.
I've heard it was good. I'm probably going to get around to watching that at some point soon.
Yeah.
So Best Picture.
All right.
This is the big one, obviously. We got 10 of these this year. We got American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, Poor Things, and The Zone of Interest. So I've seen all of these but The Zone of Interest, again, because it's not playing where I am yet. And I will just say I don't think Maestro should be here. That's my first big thing. I am glad that Past Lives was here since it didn't get some other nominations I wish it had. Overall, I got to say it's not a bad lineup, I suppose. What do you think of this?
Yeah, I can't speak with as much authority because I've only seen 1, 2, 3, 4 of the films. But I also would certainly not put Maestro in this. And it's kind of like, I mean, I think Oppenheimer is going to win.
Yeah.
I think that's like where, kind of, it checks all the boxes. And again, it's Nolan's time to shine and in a big way. And so I think that's probably where it's at. It may be by some crazy fluke Barbie, but I can't imagine. It's just hard to imagine.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's...
And then I don't think anything else is really like I don't know, got the buzz.
Well, I think if anything's going to upset it, it might be The Holdovers. I feel like that movie has gotten some more attention lately.
Right.
Even though it didn't get a director nom. But anyway, I think that could happen. I mean, with this 10 nominee thing, it's really like, I feel like shaking things up in some years. Like, I don't think the director of Coda was nominated, right? And that won Best Picture.
Right.
So it happens.
So.
There is precedent.
I forget what else was nominated that year, but because I think Coda had
that buzz going into
it. Had momentum going into.
I don't think Oppenheimer is going to get overtaken. I don't.
No,
Yeah, I think there wasn't an Oppenheimer that year where it was like, that's going to win,
right?
And everyone had just decided 6 months earlier, and that never changed.
There was no Green Book that year.
Yeah,
one you knew was gonna take the award, and that deserved to.
For our listening audience who may not know Chuck, he is kidding.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Green Book.
Just real quickly, if you don't mind, I was going to share my top 10 movies of the year, which have nothing to do with what was nominated, except there is obviously some overlap. But like, this wasn't me trying to guess the top 10. This is my top 10. So at number 1, I have. Should I go from 1 or 10?
No, go from 10.
Okay,
count down.
Okay, at number 10, I have Across the Spider-Verse.
Okay.
9, I have The Killer. 10.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. Okay.
8, I have Anatomy of a Fall. 7, I have Priscilla. At 6, I have Asteroid City. 5, I have Poor Things. At 4, I have How to Blow Up a Pipeline. At 3, I have Past Lives. At 2, I have The Boy and the Heron. And at 1, I have Oppenheimer.
Nice.
I do wonder if The Iron Claw, Killers of the Flower Moon, or May December might creep into my top 10 if I get a chance to watch them again. Those were all movies that I liked, and the more I think about them, I either want to see them again or like they just kind of are growing in my mind, But yeah, I back to the actual nominees, I definitely think it's Oppenheimer. So
for sure.
And obviously I'm okay with that because it was my favorite movie of the year. So
right. I think that's what it'll be.
Yeah. Production design.
Barbie.
Yeah. Nominees are Barbie, Killers of the Flower Moon, Napoleon, Oppenheimer, Poor Things. I mean, all really well-designed movies. I do think if you were saying that you think Barbie's going to win, I think I agree with you.
Yeah.
I really wish... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Created a pink paint shortage in the world.
Sure.
Which is my yardstick for production design. I mean, they just brought that world to life in a very colorful and interesting way.
Yeah. I think I would have preferred to get Napoleon out of there and put in Asteroid City just so it could get something. That movie is so well designed. Like, I mean, that's what that movie is. And that's kind of what like Wes Anderson's whole thing more and more is like directing through production design.
Yeah.
So I wish that had at least gotten this. I also think the production design of Priscilla was really good. So those are a couple I would have thrown in there maybe. Animated short film. I don't think we know any of these. These would be good to seek out. Let's move on to. I would say the same about live action short film probably. Oh no,
that's all like the good, like the reason to go to like the IFC.
Yeah, exactly. Although I will say here there is a more high profile director than there normally is. Wes Anderson's probably going to win his first Oscar for live action short film.
Oh, okay.
Which I saw. He has 4 of those Roald Dahl shorts on Netflix. They've been up there for a while now, and they're all pretty good. I think this one and there's another one that I'm forgetting the name of are my favorites. And they're formally, I think, interesting. Some people would probably say obnoxious, but I liked it.
Okay.
Because he kind of incorporates the narration of the book into the piece.
Okay.
For all in a way that I thought, like I said, was interesting. But anyway,
Right.
sound. The nominees are The Creator, Maestro, Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1, Oppenheimer, and The Zone of Interest. This is one of those categories that always begets the movie that isn't going to get any other nominations anywhere else, where you can finally say Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1 Oscar nominee.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I liked that movie a lot, but
yeah.
Anyway, I was kind of surprised. Maybe I shouldn't have been, but pleased to see The Creator in here, because I thought that movie was not the best movie, but what they did visually for that movie was so impressive, and on a relatively shoestring budget compared to some movies these days. Like, it looked so realistic, all these like very inventive things, and like I said, they didn't have much money, or they didn't use much money. It was very impressive.
Yeah. Maybe that. I feel like it's a category where something like that, I could see either something like that, or definitely the sound plays a very important role in Oppenheimer, and I could see them giving it to.
Yeah, and to be clear, my comments on The Creator refer both to sound, which we're talking about, and visual effects, which is coming up next. I might have made that sound confusing. Sorry.
Yeah.
I think Oppenheimer is probably going to win this.
Yeah, I think so.
The sound was a big part of it, I think. Especially if you saw it in a big IMAX Dolby theater or something.
Right.
Visual effects, again, The Creator, Godzilla -1, which I have not seen, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Mission Impossible again, and Napoleon.
I think it'd probably be The Creator or Godzilla would be my guess.
Yeah, I guess so.
I just don't think they care enough about the other three.
Yeah. And again, I'd be cool with The Creator winning, I think. I mean, it's kind of weird that Oppenheimer didn't get nominated. I think they're really leaning towards not practical visual effects here, and that had a lot of practical effects. So I don't know. All right, now we're getting to the writing categories. Adapted screenplay, American fiction, Barbie, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, The Zone of Interest. I don't know.
This one's tough.
Honestly.
Yeah, it's tough. I know that, my initial thought was like Barbie adapted, really. But then I realized that there is like a canon of character and story that it's drawing from, and it's not just like based on a doll. You know, like there's a whole thing that it's kind of taking.
Well, they did from. I think submit it as original, and the Academy said no, you're adapted. And when that was announced a few weeks back, a lot of people questioned that, one of those being Judd Apatow, in a big, loud way on Twitter, and everybody kind of dragged him for being so bent out of shape about it, which was kind of funny.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to win this. I think it's Barbie or Oppenheimer. Maybe. I don't know. I really don't know. Barbie. Any of these could.
Yeah, I kind of feel like, we haven't really guessed that Barbie's going to win anything except costume, or I guessed production design, and I sort of think that the screenplay is where Barbie shines, and where Barbie surprised everybody.
Yeah,
was with the screenplay.
Yeah.
So I think this is the opportunity for it to win.
Yeah,
not having seen 3 out of the 5, but just sort of based on what I do know.
Right. Yeah, I think any of these could win, honestly.
Yeah.
Writing original screenplay nominees are Anatomy of a Fall, The Holdovers, Maestro, May December, and Past Lives.
Yeah.
As we're recording this, Chuck and I are about to record an episode about Maestro, in which I will reveal. I'll reveal it now. I'm spoiling my own review. That I think the main problem with Maestro is the screenplay. So I really wish it had not been nominated here. I think everything else about that movie is so fucking good. and then the screenplay just doesn't do it.
Yeah, I would agree that the screenplay is weak and disjointed and weird and
Disjointed is in my review, Chuck.
Well, there you go. I didn't read it.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I think that is so bizarre that it's in there.
None of these others surprised me. I mean, Maestro getting nominated doesn't surprise me. It just disappoints me more than anything.
Right.
I don't know. Like,
I think it'd be cool if Past Lives won. I mean, I think it would be nice if that was the opportunity for something super small to make a difference. Not unlike Women Talking.
Yeah.
Last year.
Yeah. That did win, didn't it?
Uh-huh.
I kind of think it's going to be Anatomy of a Fall.
Could be.
But I wouldn't be surprised if it's The Holdovers or Past Lives.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's going to be May, December. There's been a lot of talk about why that movie didn't get as many Oscar nominations, especially acting nominations, and because the movie, kind of like shines a light on actors who some could say exploit the pain of others to do their work, which maybe actors who were tasked with nominating performances did not appreciate that light being shined on them. So that's the scuttlebutt about that. So anyway,
were there specific actors who were?
No, I don't think anyone specific. I think there's just like a lot of speculation out there that actors didn't enjoy being told that maybe what they do is sometimes predatory.
Yeah. Well, of course they didn't like that.
Which I think the movie is subtle in its delivery of that message, so good for them for getting it, I guess.
It's also just like, actors, get over yourself.
Exactly.
They only like to tell other people how they're doing things wrong.
Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. So that's all of our thoughts on that. So Chuck, thank you for your time and your opinions here, and maybe we'll revisit some of this later.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thank you for listening to Stereoactive Presents, and thank you to our guest, Charles Hinshaw. The music in this podcast is composed by Hansdale Sue. My name is Jeremiah Lee McVay. If you like what you hear in the show, please rate and review it in Good Pods, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else that allows that. Doing so helps us to expand our audience, and it's much appreciated. And please follow us wherever you happen to listen to podcasts. Every little bit helps, and like I said, it is truly appreciated. You can also get in touch with us at stereoactivemedia@gmail.com, and you can find more information about this show and everything else that Stereoactive Media is involved with at stereoactivemedia.com.
This podcast is produced by Stereoactive Media.